January 29th. Review the discipline built. Review creates awareness. It is the deliberate examination of what you built over the past month, not to judge, not to criticize, not to celebrate or condemn, simply to observe, to see clearly what held and what slipped, to understand what worked and what did not. Most people avoid review. They move from one effort to the next without pausing to assess whether the effort produced what it was meant to. They assume progress without verification. They believe discipline is present without examining whether discipline actually operated consistently. This creates blindness. You cannot improve what you do not measure. You cannot adjust what you do not observe. You cannot strengthen what you do not understand. Review removes blindness. Review is not judgment. Judgment assigns value. It labels outcomes as good or bad, success or failure. Judgment creates emotion, and emotion distorts observation. When you judge, you see what emotion allows you to see. When you review, you see what actually happened, what held. Identify what maintained. What standards remained intact throughout the month. What actions were completed consistently. What commitments were honored without negotiation. These are the patterns that worked. These are the structures that proved sustainable. Most people dismiss what held because it feels ordinary, because it did not require drama, because it happened without difficulty. But what holds is what matters most. What holds is what lasts. Acknowledge what held. Not to celebrate, to recognize, to understand which behaviors proved reliable, which systems functioned, which standards survived when tested. This awareness allows you to reinforce what worked instead of abandoning it. What slipped. Identify what did not maintain, what standards eroded, what actions were skipped, what commitments were broken. These are the gaps, the weaknesses, the areas where discipline did not hold when challenged. Most people avoid acknowledging what slipped. They justify it, they explain it, they minimize it, they treat it as exception rather than pattern. But avoidance prevents improvement. You cannot fix what you refuse to see. Acknowledge what slipped, not to condemn, to understand, to see clearly where discipline was weak, where systems failed, where standards proved unsustainable. This awareness allows you to adjust instead of repeating the same failures. Review without emotion. Do not attach shame to what slipped. Do not attach pride to what held. Both are distractions. Both prevent clear observation. Shame creates avoidance. Pride creates complacency. Neither creates improvement. The goal is not to feel good or bad about what happened. The goal is to see what happened accurately, to observe behavior without filtering it through emotion, to assess outcomes without distorting them through judgment. This requires distance, the ability to examine your own behavior as though you are examining someone else's, without defensiveness, without justification, just observation, just data, just facts about what occurred. Adjust calmly. Once you have observed what held and what slipped, adjustment becomes clear. You do not need elaborate plans. You do not need complete redesigns. You need targeted corrections, small changes to address specific gaps. Most people overreact to review. They see what slipped and conclude everything must change. They abandon what worked because they focus only on what did not. They create elaborate new systems instead of making minor adjustments to existing ones. This is unnecessary. What held does not need to be replaced. It needs to be maintained. What slipped does not require complete redesign. It requires specific adjustment, targeted correction. Calm adjustment is more effective than dramatic overhaul, because calm adjustment preserves what worked while fixing what did not. Dramatic overhaul discards everything and starts over. And starting over means rebuilding what was already built. Review is not about perfection. It is not about identifying everything that could have been better. It is about identifying what actually needs to change. What gaps are significant enough to address. What patterns are problematic enough to adjust. Not everything that slipped requires correction. Some slips are anomalies, single events. These do not represent patterns. These do not require adjustment. These require acknowledgement and continuation. But some slips are patterns, repeated failures, consistent gaps. These represent structural problems. These require adjustment. The skill is distinguishing between anomaly and pattern. Review provides this distinction. By observing what happened throughout the month, patterns become visible. What slipped once is different from what slipped repeatedly. What held mostly is different from what barely functioned. Most people do not review because they fear what they will find. They fear that review will reveal failure, that observation will confirm inadequacy. But review does not create failure, it reveals it. And revealing it allows correction. Hiding it allows repetition. Review is not punishment. Review is information. And information is what allows improvement. Reset your relationship with review. Stop avoiding it. Stop fearing it. Review is observation. It is the calm assessment of what worked and what did not. What held deserves recognition. What slipped deserves adjustment. Both deserve clarity. Day 29, built in silence.